When my father told me I had 48 hours to vacate my childhood home, I collapsed right there on our kitchen floor. 7 days later, I was standing in a courtroom watching him turn pale as a ghost when the judge revealed who actually owned the property. That's when I realized family loyalty is like quicksand. The harder you struggle to maintain it, the faster you sink. If you're watching this, please hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're from. Because this story has more shocking twists than a tornado in a snake pit, and you'll want to be here for every single revelation. My name is Caroline Bennett. 3 weeks ago, I was the dutiful daughter who'd put her life on hold to help run the family business and care for my ailing mother. Today, I'm the woman who brought the mighty Richard Bennett, respected businessman, community leader, and my father, to his knees. It all started on what seemed like an ordinary Tuesday. I was in the kitchen preparing my mother's special diet meals. She's been battling lupus for years, when my father and brother Marcus walked in with expressions I'd never seen before. "Caroline, we need to talk," my father said, his voice colder than I'd ever heard it. I turned from the stove, wiping my hands on my apron. "What's going on?" Marcus couldn't even look me in the eye, but my father stared straight at me, unflinching. "Your presence in this house is no longer required. Or wanted." I laughed, thinking it was some bizarre joke. "Dad, what are you talking about?" "The family has made some decisions. We're restructuring the business and our living arrangements. You have 48 hours to pack your things and find somewhere else to stay." The wooden spoon I was holding clattered to the floor. "This is my home." "Not anymore," my father replied, sliding a document across the kitchen counter. "We've filed the paperwork. This property is being transferred to Marcus as part of a business reorganization. Script part separator ===. My knees gave out, and I dropped to the floor, the cold tile shocking against my skin. "What about Mom?" I choked out, looking desperately toward the living room where she rested. "Does she know about this?" "Your mother agrees it's for the best," Marcus finally spoke, his voice unnaturally formal. "She signed the papers this morning." This couldn't be happening. For 15 years, I'd managed our family's real estate office, while Marcus pursued one failed business venture after another. I'd cooked meals, managed Mom's medical appointments, maintained the house we all shared, the 5-bedroom colonial that had been in our family for generations. "You can't be serious," I whispered. "We're very serious," my father said, checking his Rolex. "The clock is ticking, Caroline. I suggest you start packing." They left me there on the kitchen floor, surrounded by the half-prepared meals I'd been making. I crawled to my mother's room, hoping, praying, she'd tell me this was all some horrible misunderstanding. I found her sitting in her favorite chair, staring out the window. "Mom, please tell me you didn't agree to this." She turned to me, her eyes watery but resolute. "Caroline, sometimes families need to make hard decisions. Marcus has a vision for expanding the business, and your father believes in him. But I'm the one who's been running everything. I've dedicated my life to this family." She sighed, looking suddenly very tired. "We appreciate what you've done, but Marcus needs this opportunity. You'll be fine, you're resourceful." That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my bedroom, the same room I'd had since childhood, trying to make sense of what was happening. Where was I supposed to go in 48 hours? My entire life was in this house. The next morning, I called my friend Jessica, who worked at a law firm. "My family's throwing me out," I sobbed into the phone. "They've given me 2 days to leave." "That's not legal, Caroline," she said immediately. "They can't evict you without proper notice, regardless of who owns the house." Script part separator ===. A thin thread of hope sparked inside me. "What do you mean?" "They need to give you at least 30 days notice in the state, and that's if they're following formal eviction procedures." Jessica's voice took on her professional tone. "Come to my office this afternoon. Bring any paperwork they gave you." 3 hours later, I was sitting across from Jessica and her colleague, Harold Waverly, a semi-retired property attorney with bushy white eyebrows and piercing blue eyes. "This eviction notice is irregular at best," he muttered, adjusting his reading glasses. "And this property transfer document, there's something off about it." "What do you mean?" I asked, leaning forward. Harold looked up at me. Who owned this house before your father? My grandfather. He left it to Dad when he died 20 years ago. Harold frowned, making a note. And you've lived there continuously since? My whole life. I never moved out. He nodded thoughtfully. I want to check some records. In the meantime, do not leave that house. If they try to force you out, call the police. I returned home to find the locks changed. My key wouldn't work. Through the window, I could see boxes of my belongings stacked in the foyer. Fury replaced my shock. I called the local police, trying to keep my voice steady as I explained the situation. 2 officers arrived 20 minutes later, followed shortly by my father and brother, who came racing up in separate cars. Officers, this woman is trespassing, my father said smoothly. We've asked her to leave our property. Sir, she claims she lives here and was illegally locked out, the younger officer responded. I've lived here my entire life. I shouted, my composure finally breaking. They're trying to throw me out with no notice. The older officer turned to my father. Sir, regardless of ownership, you cannot change locks on an established resident without proper eviction procedures. You'll need to let her back in while this gets sorted legally. My father's face flushed dark red. This is outrageous. I know the chief of police personally. I'm sure you do, sir, the officer replied calmly, but the law is clear. Either you unlock the door now, or we can continue this conversation at the station. Script part separator ===. My father shot me a look of pure hatred as he unlocked the door. The moment the officers left, he cornered me in the hallway. This is temporary, Caroline. Very temporary, he hissed. You've just made a powerful enemy. Why are you doing this? I demanded, my voice shaking. What did I do wrong? Marcus stepped between us. The business is evolving, sis. You're just not part of the future plans. I slept with my dresser pushed against my bedroom door that night. In the morning, I called Harold Waverly again. They tried to lock me out, I told him. The police made them let me back in, but they're planning something else. I can feel it. I've been doing some digging, Harold said, his voice vibrating with excitement. Meet me at the county records office in an hour. And bring any of your grandfather's paperwork you can find. I searched through the old filing cabinet in the basement, where family documents had accumulated for decades. In a dusty folder marked William Bennett Estate, I found my grandfather's will, some tax records, and a sealed envelope with my name written on it in his shaky handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a letter dated just weeks before his death. My dearest Caroline, it began. If you're reading this, something has gone wrong. The house at 1487 Maple Avenue is not part of my general estate. I've arranged a separate deed transfer. The property belongs to you, not your father. The papers are filed with Jameson and Burke. Your father never knew. I didn't trust him with this information. You were always my favorite, the one with integrity. The house is your safety net. Use it wisely. Love, Grandpa. I gasped, reading it 3 times to make sure I understood. Could this be true? Had my grandfather left me the house directly? Was that even possible? At the county records office, Harold was waiting with a thick folder. The moment he saw my face, he smiled. You found something, didn't you? He asked. I wordlessly handed him my grandfather's letter. As he read it, his eyebrows climbed higher. Well, he chuckled. Your grandfather was a clever man. And I've got the documents to prove he wasn't bluffing. Script part separator ===. Harold spread out yellow documents on the table. These confirm what your grandfather wrote. He transferred ownership to you when you turned 18, 8 years ago. That's impossible, I whispered. Wouldn't I have known? Not necessarily. The deed was transferred into a trust with you as beneficiary, with instructions that it would remain confidential until needed. Your grandfather arranged for property tax payments to continue from his estate account. Very clever setup. I stared at the paperwork, stunned. So the house is already mine? Legally? Has been for years, Harold confirmed, eyes twinkling. Your father has been living in your house, not the other way around. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Don't come home. We've filed a restraining order claiming you threatened Dad. Police waiting. They're blocking me from the house. I showed Harold the message. Perfect, he said calmly. Let's go to the courthouse right now. 3 hours later, we stood before Judge Lowell, an imposing woman with steel gray hair. My father and his attorney looked smugly confident until Harold presented the property documents. Your Honor, not only is Ms. Bennett the legal owner of the property in question, but her family has fraudulently attempted to transfer ownership of assets that were never theirs, Harold explained. The judge examined the papers, frowning deeply. These appear legitimate. Mr. Bennett, did you know about this prior arrangement? My father's face strained of color. This is ridiculous. A mistake. My father would never have. The court will require verification, Judge Lowell interrupted. But in the meantime, no restraining order will be granted, and Ms. Bennett has full rights to access her property. We'll schedule a full hearing in 1 week. Outside the courthouse, my father grabbed my arm. Do you think you're clever? There's more at stake than just the house, Caroline. Much more. What's that supposed to mean? I demanded. His smile sent chills down my spine. You'll see. Script part separator . The next day, I returned to the house with a police escort. When we arrived, a moving truck was parked in the driveway. Workers were carrying out furniture, my furniture. Stop! I shouted, running toward them. That's my property. Marcus appeared in the doorway. These are family heirlooms that belong to Dad. They're in my house, I countered, and no one gave permission to remove them. The officer intervened. Sir, there's a court order preventing any removal of property until ownership is established. Marcus's face contorted with rage. You have no idea what you've started, Caroline. Once inside, I discovered my mother's room empty. All her things gone. Where's Mom? I demanded. Somewhere you can't manipulate her, Marcus sneered. She's fragile, and your behavior is upsetting her condition. My heart pounded. Tell me where she is right now. Or what? His smile was cold. She's my mother too, and she's chosen to be with us, not you. That night, I searched through the home office, looking for clues about their sudden desperation to control the property. In a locked drawer, I found documents revealing the truth. My father had taken out multiple loans using the house as collateral, loans I never approved as the actual owner. I called Harold immediately. They've been using my house to secure loans, over $2 million worth. Bank fraud, Harold said grimly. And that's just the beginning. I've found something else concerning your family business. The next morning, Harold showed me financial records indicating that Bennett Real Estate was nearly bankrupt. My father and brother had been siphoning funds for years, covering it up with creative accounting. They need your house because they've lost everything else, Harold explained. And from these documents, it looks like they have less than 30 days before the whole scheme collapses. My phone rang, an unknown number. When I answered, I heard my mother's weak voice. Caroline, please stop this. Your father says he'll lose everything. Mom, where are you? Are you okay? Just drop the house claim, she pleaded before the line went dead. Script part separator . I immediately called the police to report my mother as a potentially vulnerable person being kept from me, but they couldn't do much without evidence of abuse. They've hidden her somewhere, I told Harold the next day. I'm worried about her medication schedule. She needs specific treatments. Harold nodded gravely. We need to move fast. I've filed an emergency petition for the judge to freeze all assets related to the property and business, pending our hearing. That afternoon, my brother showed up at the house with 2 men I'd never seen before. They pounded on the door, shouting, Caroline, open this door right now. Marcus demanded. I peered through the peephole. Go away before I call the police. These gentlemen are representatives from New Horizon Investments, he shouted. They have a legitimate claim on this property. I cracked the door open, chain still in place. Any business you conducted using this house as collateral was fraudulent. I'm the owner, not Dad. One of the men stepped forward, his expression menacing. Ms. Bennett, your father owes our company $1. $5 million. Someone will be paying that debt. Take it up with my attorney, I said, slamming the door. Minutes later, my phone exploded with texts from my father. You have no idea what you're dealing with. These are dangerous people. If you don't cooperate, we'll all suffer. I forwarded the messages to Harold, who called immediately. Don't engage, he warned. But save everything. This proves coercion. The next morning, I woke to find my car windshield smashed and a note tucked under the wiper. Final warning. Instead of scaring me, it strengthened my resolve. I drove my damaged car straight to the police station and filed a report, showing them the threatening texts and the note. We believe these threats are connected to a property dispute and possible loan fraud, I explained to the detective. And I'm concerned for my mother's welfare. Script part separator . The detective, a woman named Martinez with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude, took my case seriously. This is escalating quickly, she said, examining the photos of my smashed windshield. I'll assign an officer to drive by your property regularly. And I'm going to contact Adult Protective Services about your mother. That evening, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, I heard labored breathing. Caroline? My mother's voice was barely audible.
Mom.
Where are you? Are you okay? My medication. They're not giving me the right doses. I don't feel good, Caroline. My blood ran cold. Tell me where you are. I'll come get you. Some motel. I don't. The call abruptly ended. I immediately called Detective Martinez, who promised to trace the call. Within hours, they located my mother at the Pineview Motel on the edge of town. When the police and paramedics arrived, they found her alone in a room, disoriented and without her proper medications. At the hospital, my mother squeezed my hand weakly. Your father said it was just for a few days, until you calmed down. He left you alone without proper medical care, I said, fighting back tears. I didn't know about the house, she whispered. He told me you were trying to steal from us. Detective Martinez interviewed my mother, then pulled me aside. We're filing elder neglect charges against your father and brother. And with your mother's statement about being misled, we're adding coercion and fraud to the investigation. The next morning, Harold called with news. The judge has granted our emergency motion. There's a freeze on all Bennett family assets, and your father and brother have been ordered to appear for questioning about the loans. What happens next? I asked. The court date is set for tomorrow morning, Harold said. And Caroline? We're going to need your mother to testify, if she's able. Script part separator . My mother's doctor agreed. She was stable enough to appear in court with proper medical supervision. As I wheeled her into the courtroom the next day, my father and brother stared in disbelief. The courtroom fell silent as Judge Lowell entered. This emergency hearing will address the ownership dispute of 1487 Maple Avenue and related allegations of financial impropriety. My father's attorney, a slick man in an expensive suit, spoke first. Your Honor, this is a simple family misunderstanding. My client had no knowledge of any prior arrangement regarding the property deed. Harold stood. Your Honor, we have substantial evidence proving not only that Ms. Bennett is the rightful owner, but that her father and brother knowingly committed fraud by using the property as loan collateral. The judge turned to my father. Mr. Bennett, did you take out loans using this house as collateral? My father shifted uncomfortably. Yes, Your Honor, but I believe the house was mine. My father would never have. Judge Lowell held up her hand. The deed records clearly show otherwise. These papers were properly filed 8 years ago. My father's face reddened. There must be a mistake. No mistake, Harold interjected, producing more documents. And we have evidence Mr. Bennett accessed the property records 3 years ago. He's known about this arrangement for some time. That's a lie. My father shouted. The judge banged her gavel. Mr. Bennett, control yourself. Harold wasn't finished. Your Honor, we've also discovered that Mr. Bennett has misappropriated company funds, using them to cover personal expenses and his son's failed business ventures. My brother jumped to his feet. That's not true. The judge's expression hardened. Counselor, do you have evidence of these allegations? Harold nodded, passing a thick folder to the court clerk. Bank records showing systematic fund transfers from the company to private accounts, plus documentation of the fraudulent loans. Script part separator equals. The judge examined the documents, her frown deepening with each page. Meanwhile, two men in dark suits entered the courtroom and sat in the back row. Your Honor, Harold continued, we've also learned that Mr. Bennett and his son attempted to sell the property to New Horizon Investments using falsified documents. My father shot a panicked glance at the men in the back. The taller one nodded almost imperceptibly. The judge looked up sharply. Is that true, Mr. Bennett? My father's attorney whispered urgently in his ear, but my father shoved him away. I did what I had to do to save this family, he shouted. Caroline abandoned her responsibilities. I never abandoned anything. I shot back. I've been running the business while you and Marcus drained the accounts. The judge banged her gavel. Order. Mr. Bennett, these are serious allegations. If proven, they constitute multiple felonies. My mother raised her hand weakly from her wheelchair. Your Honor, may I speak? The judge nodded. Mrs. Bennett, the court recognizes you. My husband told me Caroline was trying to steal our home, my mother said, her voice trembling but clear. He convinced me to sign papers without reading them. Then he took me to that motel and left me there, without my medication. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. My father's face went ashen. Your Honor, Harold said, we request immediate confirmation of Ms. Bennett's ownership, a full accounting of all loans fraudulently obtained, and criminal charges for elder abuse. The two men from New Horizon slipped out of the courtroom. My brother noticed and started texting frantically. The judge studied the documents one final time. Based on the evidence presented, I'm ruling that Caroline Bennett is the lawful owner of the property in question. All loans using this property as collateral are deemed fraudulent. This court will refer the matter to the district attorney for potential criminal charges. Script part separator equals. My father stood up, his face ashen. Your Honor, please, you don't understand the full situation. The judge's gavel came down hard. Mr. Bennett, I understand perfectly. You committed fraud, endangered your wife's health, and attempted to steal property from your daughter. As if on cue, the courtroom doors burst open. Detective Martinez entered with two uniformed officers. Richard Bennett and Marcus Bennett? She called out. You're both under arrest for financial fraud, elder neglect, and filing false documents. My brother lunged toward the side exit, but an officer cut him off. The look of panic on his face as they handcuffed him would have been satisfying if the whole situation weren't so tragic. Caroline, my father pleaded as they approached him with handcuffs. You can't do this to your own family. I stood up straight, finding strength I didn't know I had. You did this to yourself, Dad. And to all of us. As they led my father and brother away, Harold squeezed my shoulder. It's not over yet. There's still the matter of the business assets and those New Horizon investors. I nodded, watching my mother wipe away tears. One battle at a time. Outside the courthouse, reporters had gathered, alerted by the arrest of the prominent Bennett family members. Camera flashes popped as my father and brother were escorted to police cars. A reporter shoved a microphone in my face. Ms. Bennett, how does it feel to send your own father to jail? I took a deep breath. This isn't about revenge. It's about justice and protecting what's rightfully mine. And most importantly, protecting my mother from their neglect. Later that evening, as I helped my mother settle back into her room at home, she took my hand. I should have seen what was happening, she said quietly. Your father changed over the years. The business problems, they made him desperate. I tucked the blanket around her. Did you know about Grandpa's arrangement with the house? Script part separator equals. She shook her head. Your grandfather never trusted your father completely. He told me once that he'd made arrangements to protect you, but I didn't know the details. The next morning, Harold called with disturbing news. Those New Horizon investors have filed a lawsuit against your father, and they've named you as a co-defendant. But I had nothing to do with those loans. I protested. They're claiming you knew about the fraud and benefited from it, Harold explained. And there's more. They've petitioned to freeze all Bennett assets, including the business accounts. I felt sick. Without access to those accounts, I couldn't pay the employees or keep the business running. Can they do that? I asked. They've managed to convince a judge to issue a temporary freeze. We need to move quickly to protect what's left of the company. I spent the next 3 days gathering financial records, client contracts, and employee files. The more I dug, the worse it looked. My father and brother had left the business in shambles, accounts unpaid, contracts unfulfilled, and barely enough cash to cover the next payroll. Detective Martinez called to update me on the investigation. We've found offshore accounts in your brother's name. Over $800,000 transferred in the past 6 months. Is there any way to recover it? I asked. We're working on it, but offshore accounts are tricky, she replied. Meanwhile, we've discovered something else interesting. Your brother has been in regular contact with someone at New Horizon Investments for over a year. The pieces suddenly clicked into place. New Horizon wasn't just a random lender. They were part of the scheme all along. Script part separator . I think my brother was planning this for a long time, I told Harold when I met him later that day. New Horizon was part of his plan. Maybe to push Dad out too. Harold nodded grimly. I've found communications suggesting Marcus was going to take over everything once you were out of the picture. New Horizon would foreclose on the house, then generously allow him to manage the property. Unbelievable, I whispered. My own brother. The preliminary hearing for my father and brother was scheduled for the following week. Meanwhile, I focused on saving what remained of the family business. I called an emergency meeting with our 15 employees. I won't lie to you, I told them, gathered in our conference room. The company is in trouble. My father and brother left it in terrible shape, but I believe we can rebuild. To my surprise, many nodded in agreement. We knew something was wrong, said Janet, our office manager for 20 years. The bills weren't getting paid, clients were complaining. We were just waiting for someone to finally address it. I need 2 weeks, I told them. 2 weeks to secure new financing and reorganize. If you'll stick with me, I promise complete transparency going forward. 12 of the 15 agreed to stay, accepting delayed paychecks to help the company survive. That night, as I sorted through more records in the home office, I found a hidden folder on my father's computer labeled contingency. Inside were detailed plans for dissolving the company, selling off assets, and starting a new business without me. There was also an unsent email draft to Marcus. Once Caroline is removed from the house and company, we'll proceed with phase 2. New Horizon will handle the foreclosure, then transfer everything to our new entity. We should clear at least $3 million after debts. I forwarded everything to Harold and Detective Martinez, my hands shaking with anger and betrayal. The next morning, my phone rang with an unknown number. Caroline Bennett? A gruff voice asked when I answered. Yes, who's this? Someone who can help you with your New Horizon problem. Meet me at Riverside Park, West Bench, noon today. Come alone. I stared at the phone, heart hammering. This could be a trap, but it could also be the break I needed. At precisely noon, I sat on the West Bench at Riverside Park. A stocky man in a baseball cap approached. You Caroline?
He asked, not sitting.
I nodded.
I'm Cooper.
Former accountant at New Horizon. He handed me a flash drive. Everything you need to know about their operation with your brother. They've done this before, target family businesses, create internal conflict, then swoop in during the chaos. Why help me? I asked. They discarded me when I questioned their methods. Karma's a bitch. The evidence was devastating. In court the following week, New Horizon's lawsuit collapsed when their fraudulent pattern was exposed. The judge not only dismissed their claims but referred them for criminal investigation. My father and brother accepted plea deals, 5 years for Dad, 3 for Marcus. The business slowly recovered under my leadership, with a new name and renewed purpose. 6 months later, I sat with my mother on our porch, watching the sunset. I never thought it would end this way, she said softly. Neither did I replied. But sometimes the worst betrayals lead to unexpected strength. That evening, I wrote a letter to my grandfather and placed it beside his photograph. You were right to protect me, I wrote. The house wasn't just a building. It was the foundation I needed to stand my ground. As I sealed the envelope, I realized that losing my family as I knew it had actually given me something more valuable. The discovery of who I truly was when everything else was stripped away. Sometimes, the family we create from the ashes of betrayal is stronger than the one we were born into. And the home we fight for becomes more than walls and a roof. It becomes the physical embodiment of our own self-worth. And now I know that the house never truly belonged to any of us. We simply belong to the truth.